Welcome to the Retail Wire podcast, your go-to source for all things retail. Whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just dipping your toes into the world of retail, our podcast is your one-stop shop for all the latest trends, insights, and discussions that are shaping the future of retail. I'm your host, Chase Binney, and today I'm joined by Mike Clem, the CEO of Sweetwater. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Hey, Chase. It's great to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, great having you. I have a particular interest in your sector of the industry. So I'm going to start with the hardest question first. What instrument do you play?
Play several instruments, but drums would be my primary instrument. And now I'm learning that you're a musician, so now I'm curious what's your instrument?
Anything with a string.
All right.
Guitar was my first. Yeah, that was my first thing. I think when I was 11 years old, I said, "Dad, I want to play bass guitar." And he looked at me. I remember driving in the truck and he goes, "You want to play electric guitar?" And so he brought me to, set me up with like lead guitar. So that kicked it off. And so you've always been a drummer. Is that kind of something that's the base of your musicianship?
Yeah, play a number of things, but drums is the instrument I fell in love with. Going back to high school and college, played in a bunch of bands, recorded some music, wrote some music, and then you have a young family and you kind of set that aside a little bit. But I'll get
then
back
you
to
sell instruments.
That's
right. Yeah, I was thinking that it's probably a requirement to play some kind of music if you work at Sweetwater.
Most of us do.
Just a little background that I learned about you. Mike Clem is a distinguished retail executive with a rich history spanning over 2 decades. He kickstarted his career as a marketing analyst and swiftly gained recognition for his data-driven strategies and insights. Sweetwater is a company that's based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it is the number one e-commerce retailer of musical instruments and audio gear in the U.S. And I also learned something about it's in the top 10 of Indiana's privately held companies as well. So you guys are making waves as an Indiana state privately held, and it's kind of one of that on that cusp where it could be public, but it's private.
And very proud of that. And just here in Fort Wayne in our community, one of the top employers, and our founder is from here, and so like we're actually very proud that we get to give back to this community that was good in growing us up.
Can you tell us more about what got you into the retail sector? Was it the love of music and just more about this category that you're in?
Yeah, sure. So lifelong musician, and so how I got to the music industry is one part of the story. How I got to retail, total accident. And so my background is technology and marketing, going back to 1990s, kind of at the beginning of the internet, and came out of school, worked for some digital agencies, and just by chance started in retail and working with some big names and also some startups. Had a lot of fun doing that, and then found my way here in 2003 and married the two passions, as they say.
Nice. Maybe there are some in our audience who haven't heard of Sweetwater before. Can you share a little bit about the company? We heard there's a really interesting origin story. I don't know what part you love to tell.
Sure. So Sweetwater Sound, the U.S. leading online retailer of musical instruments. It's about a $1.5 billion company, about 10 million customers, from the beginner down the street learning to play guitar all the way up through name a rock star. We very likely work with them. Churches, schools, NFL stadiums, cruise ships, based here in Fort Wayne with about 2,600 employees. The most interesting thing about our business is this is not pure play e-commerce. This is what we would call consultative relationship-based selling. And so the magic here, the centerpiece are these 700 what we call sales engineers, super highly trained. They're experts from all over the country. They come here to Fort Wayne. As a customer, you get paired up with one of these experts. And then each time you interact with us, you get that same guy or gal who then truly is like learning everything you're trying to do with music and just kind of nurturing that relationship and helping you along that journey. And so you can imagine the loyalty and retention that spins off, and it just makes us really unique in our industry. Oh, the origin story. So the origin story. Chuck Surack, our founder, professional musician back through the 60s and 70s, who, when he was not on the road, was running a recording studio, literally out of the back of his Volkswagen bus. As a starving musician, he's got this great story. The bus was full of spray paint and Bondo, and he would travel the country with it. But he was using some really tip of the spear technology very early in the industry, and he kind of became known as a technology pioneer. And was all of a sudden the phone is ringing, and these very, very major artists are calling and saying, "Hey, we hear you're the guy that's figured out this technology." And so over time, it just evolved then into, "Hey, do you think you could sell me the gear?" And that's where retail was born. So there's your origin story.
So he was like the techie guy who was figuring out the sound samples and cartridges, and back before it was a digital. Like kind of a software based.
You got it. Like these earliest synthesizers and digital sampling was a brand new technology, and there weren't very many people that knew how to do it. And so, interestingly, we kind of started at the top of the pyramid, if you will, very major artists, and a lot of our growth is actually coming down market, which is fairly unique in retail. It's a fun story.
That is quite different than a lot of industry players may have started as more of traditional instruments, band instruments, and wooden instruments and things like that, and then started to say, well, we better add some of the electronic stuff.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and we talk a lot, even in our marketing. We're careful to say we sell to music makers, not necessarily musicians, because you may be on stage, you may be behind stage, out at the mixing board, and so yeah, we serve all the way from the instruments on the stage to the technology and everything in between.
It's important little detail, the little changes in verbiage from musician to music maker. With your role as CEO, I know this is a new thing. Well, you've been with the company a long time, but with your new role, I was curious, what are your priorities with Sweetwater, and how do you plan to lead the company into this new era of retail?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I've been here for 20 years, and I guess being in technology and marketing, no shortage of good ideas here. I think we know exactly how to grow this company into the next generation of kind of digital first shopping. I think probably my biggest opportunity as the leader is really knowing what not to change. This is a playbook that's been refined for 4 decades and really is unique in its human, relationship based approach. And so, we win by being the most human. We obsess over details. We take a long view with our customers and invest for very long-term relationships. And so, our founder, Chuck, always taught us, you take care of one customer at a time, one detail at a time, the money will follow. And that's always been true. And so I think my goal as leader is to keep us thinking through that lens.
I love the lens, and I love that legacy that he's passing on to you. A torch to carry. That does tie into one of my next questions, which is about company culture. As a company that sells gear, and this stuff is kind of technical gear at times, is in addition to musical instruments, you'd think that you would talk more about the features and all that stuff, but it sounds like you put a lot of emphasis on the people, the human side of it. I read that Sweetwater had been recognized as one of America's greatest workplaces in 2023. And you've won countless awards, such as the Best Company Compensation, Best Company Perks and Benefits, Greatest Workplaces for Diversity, and Best Company Culture. How is this placed in your priorities as a CEO?
Right at the top. And so thank you. What a wonderful question. We're a relationship-based company in a high-passion industry. And so it's really important for us that as we hire, that we're hiring people that are in it for love of the game, so that you can reflect that same passion and positivity back out into our customers and at every touch point with the customer. And so we're very careful how we hire. We have a really unique training program. So you talk about like kind of technical expertise versus customer service. We have what we call Sweetwater University. It's a 13-week training program. When we hire a new salesperson, that guy or gal will literally go through 13 weeks of training before they ever interact with a customer. I've never seen anything like it. And it's a combination of business training, technical knowledge, customer service, all of our systems. We talk a lot about you're either adding to our credibility or you're taking away. And so it's very important to us that as you roll out onto the sales team, that you're able to come in a very high caliber and have that balance of both expertise and relationship. And then we do a lot of training into our leadership team. Those frontline leaders we think are really important. And so we're very intentional about building building up our folks so that we can maintain that culture.
Yeah, that word credibility stands out to me. It's something that you can build and retain, but it takes a lot of extra effort to plan that out.
We talk a lot about credibility. We also talk a lot about character. There's a lot of things I can teach you, but we're looking for people that have the right heart coming in. Are you here to serve? To be part of something bigger than yourself, and so we really are looking for that right profile that says I'm in it for love of the game.
What are some other specific initiatives you've implemented for this positive work environment?
Yeah. So, one thing we have invested in space. So our campus here in Fort Wayne is 176 acres with almost 1 million square feet under roof with a number of amenities. So we have a diner, we have a coffee shop, a doctor, a nurse, a fitness center, massage therapist, concierge, on and on. We think it's important, not just for recruiting and attracting talent, but also listen, we're displacing a lot of these employees from around the country, from their normal support network, and we just think it's really important that as you come in here, what can we do to build that culture, but also just kind of ease some of life's burdens, if you will. It's really important to us as we still think very much like a smaller company and a very family mindset. So we invest a lot in the campus, and that's really paid off for us well.
I can imagine that fosters more of a community and a nice place to work.
I think in the campus, and then also we just invest in families. We try to do things outside of the work together too. We talk a lot about doing life together, not just business, and that turns into visits to local sporting events or the zoo or concerts or things in our backyard. And so we're very intentional and proactive about that.
How do you strike this balance between fostering the strong work ethic and then also ensuring that it's a fulfilling personal life outside of work? You mentioned, doing things together, the outings, the community involvement. Fort Wayne is not the largest city in America. So I think that you would be kind of a bigger anchor in that community. Just curious about that balance between working hard and a fulfilling workplace.
Yeah, it's the right question. And so we invest in this culture, we invest in this campus, these family events. Beyond that, Fort Wayne is actually there's a wonderful momentum here. We have a reputation as kind of a old rusty manufacturing town, but there's actually a really cool resurgence going on. And I think Sweetwater in a unique way has been part of that to bring in all this, musical creative talent from around the country. So it's really, really hard to go into a bar or a church and not find great music here in town. So we have that kind of common bond. And I think really, in work-life balance, I think a lot of us find our outlet by being part of the creative culture here now in Fort Wayne.
I've seen that kind of snowball in different cities that when they became known as like Bentonville, Arkansas is starting to be known as the mountain biking city. And so you get people moving here just for that. So on weekends, you'll see mountain bikes off the back of the trucks, and it's just a common thing, at the local pubs and coffee shops. Like I could imagine that being a similar effect in your town.
Yeah, I think it's very similar.
Musical presence.
That's great.
Do you have any advice for other companies striving to create this workplace culture that you've created?
Advice for other companies. So, sure. So I think the way I would say it here is we start with heart. Every conversation starts with heart. And then we have to break apart and say, well, what does that mean? And so you can talk about having a heart for customers, But what about employees? What about vendors? What about this community? And so then we try to think strategically about that, which is like, what are the proactive things that we can write down on a roadmap and then make sure we get those done, protect time for it, protect resources, even measure it, like, is it working? And so we talk a lot about heart here. I mentioned frontline leadership earlier. That's really, really important. I think this concept of what's the saying? You quit a boss, you don't quit a company, and so we really believe that here, which is like, we really want you to have a great experience all the way down to the interaction with your local leader. And so we invest a lot in frontline leadership. I think that's one thing we've learned. And for our culture, we're very much in person. A lot of companies now distributed remote, which works great for some. I think what works well for ours is being in one place when you're such a creative, kind of collaborative culture. For us, it's, all the training I just mentioned, like so more meaningful to do that in person, hands on the gear and the instruments. And so, maybe that's my advice is, that's the things we've learned that have really kind of enabled the culture for us.
Mm-hmm. Kind of relying on the connection between the team members, as much as relying on maybe a system or a process that's kind of strictly laid out.
I think that's right, and we've just learned that that's best done in proximity, and we're just all part of this fabric that, this culture that kind of passes down through generations, and so we've learned that's the best way to approach it.
On the e-commerce side, I'm curious about how Sweetwater has managed to kind of stand out in the online space when you don't have the physical in-store presence that some of the competitors in the music space have, and then just to stand out amongst other competitors. I won't name them, but you have competitors in the online space as well. How do you stand out and outcompete?
Yeah, I think there's probably many answers to that, Chase, but I think that maybe the one I would lift up to you is we really focus on adding more value. And not just adding more value, but adding unexpected value. And examples might be, with most of our purchases, we throw in a 2-year warranty for free. We throw in tech support after the sale for free shipping. We even throw free candy in the box unexpectedly. We do a cool thing with guitars. Any guitar over $399, we actually take these guitars out of the box when we receive them. We inspect them. They go through what we call a 55-point inspection. Technicians are actually looking for defects, cosmetic issues, or adjusting the instrument. And then we photograph them so that online you can actually choose the exact guitar that shows up at your door with the wood grain, this wood grain and not that wood. Yep. And so it's like little details like that. I think probably the one thing that really helps us stand out, because otherwise it is very much a brick and mortar kind of purchase. It's an emotional purchase. I want to see it, hear it, feel it. And so for us, we've been able to bridge that gap, if you will, by offering all these values. And we've, I think, been able to really accelerate our growth by thinking very consciously about how do we bridge that gap to an otherwise local purchase.
Have there been any challenges to that where, you knew that you had to step up your game in the online space? Is there anything that you remember that was a difficult challenge?
I mean, I probably could name all kinds of challenges. I think it's an expensive business model is one problem. When you're giving all that value to customers, we have to be very efficient in all the other parts of the business and run in pretty lean ways. But that really is the strategy. Like, we win by giving, where other companies win by cutting costs or cutting corners. And so we believe it's it's just the right thing to do for human beings. And so kind of this whole business model is based on how do we just, make that experience great and go just a little bit over the top for you. And that's kind of the heart of this company.
I like that. A little bit over the top goes a long way. What strategies has Sweetwater employed to reach and engage your target audience? And maybe that word target audience is up for grabs here too.
Sure. We we maybe a couple directions here. One is, so like I said, we're very much the human one-to-one relationship company, and so even when you buy online, you're paired up with one of these sales experts, and we're on the phone with you, like not just like online behavior, like Amazon or others. Like we're really hearing all the emotion and passion under the purchase. We're learning like, oh, you collect guitars, oh, left-handed guitars, oh, vintage. And so like we're carefully, learning about you, and you can imagine just the amount of personalization that we can do, one-to-one marketing, the web personalization. We also empower all of our folks to just go the extra mile to solve any kind of issues that we might have with the customer. So they go to great lengths. A funny story, we had a customer recently just screaming at us that we really ruined a purchase. And we get through the call and we find out they did not buy it from us. They bought it from a competitor.
Oh,
and so Chase, to solve it, we just went ahead and replaced it for free, and just blew their mind, that we would go to those links. So it's that kind of culture that says we just want to go over the top. And so you say, what strategies do we employ? I really think like at the heart of our business model is. We just want to be real and human and just take care of so that's kind of at the center of the answer. The other thing I would say to you, we really talk about demonstrating that expertise and that relationship online. I think, especially online today, very crowded. A lot of this generation is just looking for price and availability. And so it becomes really important to interrupt those digital journeys for all of us retailers and say, how do I stop you and sort of tell you my unique story? And so we do a lot of bringing that expertise up into our website. We talk a lot about being the research destination and how can we educate and how can we bring more videos or tech support or quick start guides. And so a lot of our investment is really in not so much a marketing strategy or tactic as much as like, how do we just provide value to you and sort of interrupt an assumption you might otherwise have.
Just thinking about the entire journey of how someone becomes a customer, what do they need even before and after becoming a customer, and immersing your company into that with all the content you provide.
I think that's right. And I have this theory in retail, like where we transact, potentially becomes, less interesting, but where we research and where we discover new products, I think is where a lot of balance of power is. And so for us, that's a pretty big investment that we continue to make and even into the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's an industry where a lot of research is done before making a purchase.
Very much so. That's right.
Anything about the future of Sweetwater? Do you have any visions for the challenges ahead, the changes in technology? We've got all kinds of things with AI coming up and behavioral changes in how people purchase and how they interact online. Just general vision for the future.
Yeah, vision for the future. So we very much think about, how do we just stay true to who we are and invest in these relationships, these existing customers, millions of them, and how do we just continue to add more value than others? So that's kind of the kind of the core, if you will. We think a lot about then there are new markets that we're finding really great growth in. Band and orchestra instruments, so like K-12 is a new space for us. Content creators, not just musicians or music makers, but now podcasting and streaming and so forth.
Yep.
Huge market for us. Used gear is something we've not done a lot with. So I think we have growth areas like that. You mentioned artificial intelligence. We actually think, a lot of debate. You probably can't do a podcast now without ending with Gen AI somewhere in the conversation.
Yeah, I know. It's so cliche. I didn't even want to say it, but
hey, listen, we in the music industry, we actually are pretty excited about it in an interesting way. I think it will actually, for us, we believe, kind of lower the bar, if you will, or kind of ease the entry point into making music, or oh wow, this is fun, and now maybe I move my way into real instruments and buying gear. So we actually think it expands our industry, and then obviously all the conventional ways that we think it can help us, in making our people smarter and more efficient. And so I think we agree. I think I always say being such a human relationship based company, I'm interested in AI that augments our humans and not replaces them.
Yeah, that's a really mature perspective, and I think a lot of the best companies are taking that stance on it. Lowering the, I did like what you said about that. Music has a hurdle to get into it. Like when I took guitar lessons, it was 3 years. Now with after a year, I could kind of start to learn stuff of my own. But yeah, 3 years of guitar lessons gave me a good foundation. Not everyone has the, I didn't know any better, so I was, I think 11 years old, and now if you tell me, I challenge you to learn the flute, I know how long it takes to learn, and I almost get like, I don't want to take on a new project.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
a
have time.
concern. It takes grit and it takes determination,
Yep.
and generationally we may be moving to a little more instant gratification kind of mindset,
Yep.
and so I really do think AI and listen, other kind of apps and software based, there's a lot of music making that's moving into more digital ways, and so that excites us.
Mm-hmm.
If that's a new entry point, then we think that's not just great for our sales and business, but like just
Yep.
as a society, we just think that's fantastic to unleash more creativity.
Another wave of music making growth. I remember in kind of the mid 2000s, all the home audio systems started to be, $99, and you're like, I can actually start recording at home for like a couple $100
That's right.
of equipment.
That's right.
And that was a big kind of a revolution in music making.
Yeah, you got it.
We talked about this already. Really, we hit on the technology side of how Sweetwater is leveraging technology to your advantage.
Yeah, I think AI, all the things we said. I think the other thing that's top of mind for us, technology, would just be personalization. This business model, we just understand our customers at such a deeper level. We have such a rich understanding, and I think our focus is on how do we use more and more technology to not as a business tactic, but as like how do you create more value for that customer? The more we can understand them, the more we can drop the right moments in front of them, whether that's product recommendations or even just content or education or entertainment. And so I think that's top of mind for us and in our technology roadmap.
Being able to personalize and treat everyone like the individual, unique customers that they are.
That's right.
Now, this is kind of I'm going to ask you to predict the future, but do you see any big innovations that might catch e-commerce retailers off guard, or any in the industry, but especially where you are? Anything that you think would kind of disrupt or catch others off guard?
Yeah, we already use Gen AI, so I can't use that as my answer. I think listen, the other thing, Chase, I think is, we think a lot about privacy, consumer protection, very important to our heart. We're a relationship based company, and so we work really hard to build those relationships, get permission to contact customers, and I think we're seeing a lot of legislation. We're seeing a lot of mindset evolving around here. And so one thing I guess I would encourage is don't be caught off guard by that. We are taking steps to say, hey, listen, this is we've been doing it the right way for 4 decades, creating relationships, and there's a lot of retailers that are maybe getting surprised by states that are closing some of those doors. Cookies are crumbling. Like how will I reach my customers? And so if you're not paying attention there, I think that's one that we would lift up and encourage you.
Very important. Kind of on the not something that everyone thinks of, but it's something that's near and dear to most people, is the data privacy.
Yeah, and our heart would be, listen, we believe in that. Let's do it the right way. We don't want to be creepier across that line. And in the same vein, we have an incredible head start because we really have been nurturing those relationships for so many years. And so there will be a moment where some will accelerate some and decelerate other retailers.
Might catch you off guard on this one. I'm looking for some new music to listen to. Any recommendations?
Oh boy. I can't answer, Chase, because they're all customers and we love all of our kids here. So I'm gonna have to dodge the question. I'm sorry. What's your normal playlist? Where are you normally?
Normal playlist is kind of in a little bit of like indie folk. kind of indie folk sounds. Sometimes uh, I don't have any names coming to me at the top of my head. I used to be really into like, I get a super fan of a specific artist, and now I've got kids, I've run a business, and now I just hit shuffle.
I'm exactly there with you. That my favorite thing is like, I don't know, Spotify, you just tell me and I discover so many new things, and I actually love that.
Well, this has been fun, Mike. Thank you for coming on. Great insights. Loved learning about the company and your vision. And thanks to everyone listening for taking the time to listen to today's episode. If you found it valuable, please share, hit subscribe, connect with us on LinkedIn, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Mike, thanks again for coming on. It's been great.
Hey, I had a lot of fun. Thanks.